Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of the program. I am Victor Matthias. The United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, has lamented that Nigeria is losing no fewer than 500,000 infants to malnutrition annually, which it described as a silent health crisis. Today on the program, our focus will be on Nigerians displaced by activities of insurgent group Boko Haram in the northeastern part of the country, from where the international agency says these numbers are formed. But before we begin, let's take a moment and look at the trends in the past week. People the world over took time to celebrate teachers. They singled out those who made marks on them during their primary, secondary, and university education and showered praises and encomiums on them. Nigeria kicked off its 2018 World Cup qualifier, and supporters, including those who made it to Ndola and those who couldn't make it, used the hashtag Zambia must fall to rally behind the Super Eagles. 2 goals from the team's English Premier League contingent ensured victory over the Chipolo Polo of Zambia. Well, those were the trends, but let's now switch lanes and start with our guests via a Google Plus Hangout. First up, Amina Ahmed joins us from Nottingham in the United Kingdom. Jalia Bello joins us from Coventry, also in the United Kingdom. Juliet Kego is joining from Toronto in Canada. And Fire Williams joins us from Lagos, Nigeria. Thanks for coming on the program today. So let's begin by getting a sense of what is actually going on with the internally displaced persons in the Northeast.
To be honest, to use one word, it is disheartening, it's frustrating, it's saddening, and it's scary. Sorry, I said one word. The problem with the internally displaced people is that the numbers keep growing. And why do the numbers keep growing? Because previously hard to reach areas are being liberated now from the crisis. So more and more people are coming out, and we still haven't yet grasped the full scale of devastation that is being witnessed in the Northeast. And what scares me is when people with vast humanitarian experiences from Syria to Sudan, like UNICEF, the World Food Program and other agencies, when people with that kind of experience describe the crisis in the Northeast as a severe humanitarian disaster, similar to nothing they've seen before. It gives me the chills and makes me realize everybody needs to do whatever it is we can to help these people as they are being liberated from the crisis area.
I think Amina has said it all. The situation is very, very disheartening. People are dying. Children are severely malnourished. In fact, acute severe malnutrition, that's the best way to describe it. And they're dying on a regular basis, and it's just too much. I think that we are overwhelmed. Probably Nigeria is overwhelmed by the situation. We didn't really understand what it was in the beginning. And then suddenly we have these, good, military men going into the bushes, fighting off the terrorists. And then we get to see lots of people actually hiding in these bushes, already hungry and suffering from preventable diseases as a result of malnutrition. So it's overwhelming for us. Not that there would not be a solution or we cannot fight it, but it's something that was not expected, or rather the magnitude was not as it is, was not as much or as high end as we found it to be right now.
And I think it's important to put this in context, because when we use words and we say it's devastating, it's horrific. Let's just run through some numbers. I mean, if we look at all the reports from UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders, pretty much everyone is reeling out the same numbers, right? They're saying 2 million people, or even over are going to be displaced or are already displaced. 500,000 people, you know, I mean, these are people that they're saying this year are facing malnutrition. Talking about 154. I mean, the numbers are, when you hear those numbers, I try to put things in context and I say 2 million is like the population of Botswana, right? So if you look at it that way, you're looking at, maybe because we're such a large country, right? Of human life, we're kind of like not clear as to what the value of one human life is in Nigeria. And then if you think about that on that scale, 2,500,000, it's horrific. And again, as Leah and Amina rightly said, these things are not, they are not unsurmountable, right? The first step is the acknowledgement. We need to get to that point where, and I think that's what the citizen-led initiative is, to get to a point where we want Nigerians to understand the severity of what's going on. Let's start there first. Let's really understand that this is serious. And then that just segues into solution.
Well, speaking of the citizen-led initiative, Amina, let me come to you to give us an insight as to what this is all about.
It's a group of people who are concerned. Everybody, I assume, is concerned, but to different extents, and we're all helping in different ways. But this initiative is a coming together of people who share the same beliefs and concerns about the IDPs and the crises in the Northeast, specifically in the epicenter, Borno State. All we want to do is put our minds together, put resources together, try to get more people to join us, the more the merrier, and raise funds, create awareness of the severity of the crisis in the Northeast, and look for palliative measures. We are not trying to change the world, literally. We just want to help people, one person at a time, one child at a time, and we just believe it will be a big shame. It will be a blight on the consciousness, on the morality, on our collective consciences if our kinsmen, our fellow compatriots, our fellow humans escape what could potentially be the worst crisis they've ever experienced in their life, only to come and die of malnutrition in a land of plenty. Because, believe it or not, Nigeria is not a poor country by any index.
And Nigerians or donors will be wondering whether or not this citizen-led initiative will be able to justify what it gets based on past experiences and occurrences as well. What is being done to clear the minds of people from such?
Thank you for the question. Victor, is very, very important, actually, and I'm happy you raised it. Do you know that Nigeria has a policy on internally displaced person from July 2012? This policy is just drafted, it's not been adopted yet. And this is the reason why we have room for mismanagement of resources, because there is no legally binding policy on the assistance and protection of the IDPs. This is something that has been in process since the UN General Assembly of 1998, where there was a discussion about, refugees, about IDPs, and taking that forward, there was also the ECOWAS, meeting that was held in 2006, which was it was about refugees, returnees, and IDPs, all of that. Again, taking that policy forward, that was the AU summit of 2009. We call that the Kampala Convention, where it also discussed about refugees, returnees. All of these policies or documents are available, and they sort of put it out there, a clear rules and regulations in order to assist IDPs and protect them. But Nigeria has neither adopted the national policy on IDPs or even domesticated the Kampala Convention. So whatever is happening about, the assistance, humanitarian assistance that is getting to the IDPs is basically on ad hoc basis. It is not legally binding. And when you have a situation like this, then of course there is room for mismanagement.
Just as Jalila said, a lot of corporate organizations are wondering if we donate money, would it go into private pockets? So the transparency that we have started with this initiative, holding the money in trust and making sure that it's fully accountable, we have to let corporate Nigeria know that this is an initiative that is citizen-led, that is not the typical government kind of response. So my concern will be, number one, how do we raise more awareness? And what comes to my mind is what we had when we had We Are the World, this song by the Michael Jacksons, and everybody put their thumb on it, and we saw how much awareness was raised with that kind of theme song. So I am suggesting that we reach out to the topmost artists in this country to help us to come together and raise awareness to the plight of the IDPs. Everybody must hear. It must be throughout the social media, get into the conscience of people in government. They must begin to hear that message repeatedly until they realize that the goldfish will have no hiding place. Whatever money is being brought in, like the 16 billion donated by the German government, must be spent judiciously.
Well, the Senate said its members will donate about 300,000 naira each out of their salaries to help the IDPs. How will you react to this gesture, Juliet?
Victor, thank you very much. First of all, I mean, with all things, there is gratitude that at least an action is being taken. First of all, gratitude that they donated something. They donated 300,000 each, like you rightly said, and then they've set up this committee. But I want to echo again my colleagues, Fayo, Amina, and Jalila, to say that whatever it's being done now, whether by the federal government at the state level or the Senate, the National Assembly, the situation on ground, the reality, I like to say the evidence that we have on ground clearly shows that not enough is being done.
Mm-hmm.
That's the gap that I really want to talk about, because I think the thing too is that in Nigeria, we're so used to misprioritization. We don't treat things as urgently. And this is the heart of this citizen-led initiative, to say, wait a minute, if the government fail us, are we to also fail ourselves? The power resides with the citizens. It is, I think it's a sacred duty for us to hold accountable those we've elected to serve us, because that's what it is. To say, in light of the revelations that are coming up, right, in terms of what the senators earn, in terms of all the corruption that's plaguing our system, we can do better. We really can. We're not doing enough. Our representatives are not doing enough. This, to me, represents, it's so tragic that it should be a national emergency. We don't see that. We don't see a Senate or House of Representatives sitting on this issue as if it is what it is. They're treating it like every other thing. Okay, they've set up this committee. Our role now is to monitor, to see what it is, what are they going to do? What's the modality, first of all? I love how Fayo raised those points, because we all deal with different projects, like in the different continents that we're in. The best practice is, you've set up this committee. This committee has to be transparent, right? The 2 weeks of going, we don't want 2 weeks that's wasted. I reeled out those numbers at the beginning. People are dying per hour. Children are dying per hour. So this 2 weeks, it has to be used well.
All right, just hold your thought for a second. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back shortly.